I don't know how these people can watch the news
daylight
at this hour.
Well, I actually stayed up and watched it because I'm so dedicated. People are always like, how do you know so much, Nick? It's because I put in the extra hours staying up watching two old men at 4 a.m. Although Trump did well, he was a little bit rambling, as Trump always is, but Biden was so bad. We know he's been bad lots of times. He does gaffes, he seems a bit old, but he said he was so bad. There were moments when he thought, is he going to be able to carry on? Because he went silent for a long time and then suddenly said, we beat Medicare, which didn't even make sense. Even as somebody who's not a fan of Biden, my heart sank thinking, will he actually get through this? And I think it's hit a new level where everyone, even on his side, is saying he has to go. But what are they going to do, Adam? Gavin Newsom, what are they going to do?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm very conflicted on this one because obviously you see moments like that and you think he isn't fit to run. But then also, I've always been a big fan of The Walking Dead. So, like, I personally would love seeing Biden performing.
It's another movie. It's another movie.
It's a TV show, Lewis, but you're getting there. I don't know. I think this is a good sign, the fact that people from the Democratic Party are even asking him to stand down. I think that would be better for everyone. I mean, we just need to accept that he's clearly not fit.
It wouldn't be better for anybody. The point is, what the debate showed, which I don't think people really kind of understood, is the difference between the two parties, the left and the right, the two sides. You know, Team America, which is what Donald Trump stands for, and Team World, which is what Joe Biden stands for. There's a total divide. It doesn't really matter who's president, because the truth is, this is like they say, it's like Woodrow Wilson's president. You don't know anything about this. When during World War I, and he lost his mind and his wife took over. It doesn't matter because Joe Biden is just,
Yeah, we know he's not running it. I mean, that's what that reveals. Then the question becomes who's running it and what will they do next? If they're worried that their candidate is so useless, what will they do? Will they just
they could
more
maybe.
lawfare?
I don't think they can do anything except unless they get the approval of Joe Biden, which means getting the approval of. And I met the guy. He spoke to me personally in Philadelphia.
Biden?
Yes, in 1978.
Was he lucid at the time?
Yes, he was, because I was dressed up. I was a punk rocker at the time. I know it's hard to believe. Louis Schaefer being a pug.
That is. Everything about that story is hard to believe.
It's weird. Yeah. But he like pointed me out and said, like, this guy right in the front. I don't remember what I did except.
Then you assumed it was about you.
It was about me. Nobody else.
You're one of Biden's rambling anecdotes that he still tells. And that was quite rambling as well. But and they said he had a cold, which was such a brilliant get-out. I mean, a cold, Adam, can really make your dementia play up, I hear.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Biden's always got a cold. If you look at him, he's got a host of sort of conditions. I mean, I think it does affect dementia, doesn't it? Having the cold, having man flu,
and the amazing thing about the dude is he's got extremely low cholesterol because he's on an.
How would you know that?
Because according to you Google.
That's the
Google
least
1922 or 2022, 2023 medical report. They print this stuff.
We've got to move on. Trust Lewis to bring it back to cholesterol. What is on the Daily Mail, Adam?
The Daily Mail. Boris, Britain can still swerve Starmageddon. This is, and he's saying. Boris Johnson has said the nation doesn't really want Sir Keir on his tax-hiking, EU-loving, soft on legal migration agenda. There's still time for us to swerve the cliff edge of Starmageddon. This is classic Boris Johnson, completely optimistic, saying that the Tories can still win. I think, personally, it's a bit of a lost cause if you take into the fact that people are quite tired of the Tories. And we also know that Reform is taking a large chunk of typical Tory voters. So I don't know really where Boris is saying this for, but it's classic. You can almost hear it in his own voice. There's still time for us to swerve the Starmageddon. You know,
he's saying it because he's become completely irrelevant. I couldn't even read the article. Boris Johnson is.
That's for other reasons.
That's another reason.
You didn't have your reading glasses.
He wants me to at least read the headline. The truth is that Boris Johnson is irrelevant now. I hate to say it. I mean, I enjoyed him for a while. I didn't really understand. He's a total, absolute phony. And,
tell us how you really feel.
And he has no place in this world. We need.
He has no place in this world.
He has no place in this current world that we're in.
Current world
of politics. You know,
I'm not saying
a bit like David Tennant.
No, let's be very clear about that.
I mean, he's going to die because he's got totally ridden with type 2 diabetes.
I hear his cholesterol is flawed. But yeah, it's a classic Boris, as you say, lots of funny phrases. He even says Starmer's hatred of private enterprise rises off him like a vapour. He's saying that Starmer's tax policies are not what people want. He doesn't have the charisma, he doesn't have the policies either. and he's saying, why are you voting for this guy? No one actually likes him, and he's doubting the polls. But of course, the answer to that is, well, then what does that say about the Tories? Although, to be fair to Boris, it must be weird for him because he was the one doing perfectly well, and they got rid of him. So he's sort of taking one for the team a little bit here. 100%. But all right, maybe we'll move on and do the Times then, Lewis. The
Times. Badenoch. How do you pronounce it?
Badenoch or Badenoch, some people say.
Yeah.
I don't like Scottish people.
Right.
That's a Scottish name, Badenoch.
Not sure if she's Scottish.
No, she's married to a Scot. That's I was making.
That does make us Scottish. I forgot.
Joke.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
let us know. Signpost
we
for all
got to be
jokes.
careful. We got to be on the same page if people are going to think that I'm being prejudicial.
Always tell us when you're attempting to do a joke, Lewis.
Okay, sorry. Voters must see through Farage's act. So on one hand, they got Boris Johnson fighting to keep people voting for the Tories away from Labour. On the other hand, we got people saying, "Hey, don't pay any attention to Farage. Farage is not good for the Tory party."
Yeah.
And I think what's happening now is they were proper scared to death of Farage, and they realized that that's where the problem is going to come from. Yeah. And rightly so, because we're in a war right now. I've said this. Remember, I said this 2 years ago. The war we're in. I kept on saying we're in a war. Nobody listened to me because we're in a war between the left and the right. It's not about individual different issues. It's about the core belief system. Are you with us or are you against us?
Okay. Just to return to some of the facts of the story, in case anyone lost Lewis, the Kemmy's saying that Nigel Farage is only in politics for the limelight and the pursuit of celebrity, and she also says that many Reform voters, including some of her friends, are good people, but they don't realise what they're voting for, and that he's like the wolf in the Three Little Pigs. The wolf is coming to destroy you. He's not coming for a cup of tea. Yeah. Strong.
Yes.
Fairy tale-based words, Adam. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe there's an element of truth to this, but I don't think. I think it's unfair to say he's in it purely for himself. I think this is typically something we tend to say for any charismatic leader of any party, anyone who's got an ounce of sort of enthusiasm. We sort of brand them as self-obsessed.
A good point.
And they don't have to be boring. He's different. He's fun, and I think it's important to say that she seems to condemn him after this recent racism row, which I think we're covering later.
Yeah, but the truth is, it is true. He's a politician publicly because he wants the attention. We're on TV because we want the attention. You can't fake that.
You certainly do, yeah.
Okay, I certainly do.
As do I.
A little bit of attention. But the other thing is this.
Nick can take it or leave it.
Is that Farage and the Reform Party people are trying to take over the Tory party. They're trying to destroy
That's not really a secret at this point. I think that's fair enough.
She said it was... She said...
Yes, I resent you saying our former colleague is just out for attention. I think he's out for the British people. But anyway, that is the front page he's dealt with.
And he's for that.
But coming up, has Reform UK been the victim of a sting attack? And will the BBC be soft on Labour? See you in a minute.
GBNews Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Giovanni is axed following growing allegations of threatening and abusive behaviour.
We won't see his little toes dancing around the dance floor again, which is a shame.
Was it the BBC saying, we've had some bad publicity about this star, do we need to maybe let him go? Or was it Giovanni himself saying that, he's had to, with all the bad publicity and what's the allegations against him, he's walked away? We don't exactly know. But what we do know is that Amanda Abingdon, who he was coupled with last year on the last series of Strictly, left claiming that she had nasty behaviour from him in rehearsals when they were training for their routines. And she's also been diagnosed with PTSD, which she is blaming or claiming happened because of the training that she was put under Giovanni. It's very sad because I've met Giovanni on quite a few occasions, and he comes across as a very nice gentleman, actually, and the fans absolutely love him. And even though the allegations are out there against him, everybody I speak to in terms of the fans are on his side.
I mean, from the fans' point of view, they don't see what goes on behind the scenes. All they see is an incredibly gifted dancer who we're seeing footage of now.
It might come out later, but there's all sorts of things coming out because after Amanda came out and claimed all this behaviour against him, a male celebrity last week also came out and voiced their opinion. Yeah, a lot of fans will be gutted, but as you say, we don't know the full story yet as what's gone on.
And it's incredible pressure that no one's allowed to be, a duffer right from the start now.
I mean, it's one thing learning lines if you're an actor, but it's a different kettle of fish altogether if you're learning moves that you've never done before. So you've got...
The People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our Election Night Watch Party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
But she's
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with Adam Kumas and Lewis Schaefer, who haven't learnt to not speak during that bit. Let's do the Mail. And Nigel Farage claims the racist Reform volunteer was an actor. But that would imply the media are somehow out to get Reform UK, Adam. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I think this is the story is under fire. Nigel Farage claims Reform volunteer was filmed by Channel 4 calling Rishi Sunak an effing P-word. Was an actor. Supporters suggest he was paid to undermine him as a party's campaign descends into chaos. So I think the first thing to say is whether this guy's an actor or not, it's a horrible thing that he said. Really nasty. I will just say that. Lewis is laughing. He says it all the time. But yeah,
Lewis is laughing at something else in his head. Yeah. He doesn't know where he is.
Because I'm an actor. I was in all these films.
I don't believe you've ever been paid to act for anything, Lewis. I think
but it's still it's on film. They took...
Well, when I read the story, though, I thought it was interesting because when Farage said, "Oh, this guy seems like an actor," I said, "Is he though?" And then I saw on Twitter he had like a lot of receipts, mainly including this guy had actually been paid for acting work.
Yeah.
He's got his like Mandy profile up there. There's lots of videos of him on TikTok doing different impressions and different voices. So it turns out this guy actually is a part-time actor, not a very good one. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
He fooled the media of the UK, if true.
Yeah, well, but it just goes to say something about journalism and journalistic integrity. No one seems to be checking things. Was he paid? Is he employed by Reform? No. So it's just a volunteer. It doesn't really matter. You know.
So what's your feeling? I've got to be nicer to you.
No, you don't have to be nicer to me. You can try. I think you're always going to get idiots who are drawn to these things, and I think Farage is sort of brushing off and saying he doesn't represent us. So good for him.
What's suspicious to me, and I'm not saying Channel 4 had any involvement, and they put out a statement. They say we strongly stand by our rigorous and duly impartial journalism, which speaks for itself. We met Mr. Parker for the first time at Reform UK Party headquarters, where he was a Reform Party canvasser. We did not pay the Reform UK canvasser or anyone else in the report. Mr. Parker was not known to Channel 4 News and was filmed covertly via the undercover operation. So hopefully that legally covers us. But in general, the reason I'm suspicious of this guy is no one's talking about getting him sacked from his job, and he's not coming out with a shameful apology. It's all the focus is on Reform and just whether he was an actor. Isn't that suspicious in itself? No one's saying, well, he should lose his other job as a property developer or whatever. It seems to be very, very dodgy.
Wait, this actor shouldn't lose.
Yeah, think about it. If this was a normal situation where the guys come out and said something racist, what happens to someone like that?
They lose their
job. The party gets attacked, but they get attacked. They have to do a tearful apology.
Yeah.
They get calls to lose their job. None of that's happening. It's all the focus is on Reform.
They don't, because I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
They don't have it. I think what it is the mainstream media, as my beautiful son number 4 over here says that I think what they want to just do is damage Reform. They don't need an apology from Reform yet because Reform isn't a real thing. And if Reform goes down, they won't need an apology from Reform. They're trying to crush Reform.
But I'm saying from the guy, it feels a little bit Ray Epps to me in Jan 6. Just my interpretation.
Yeah.
The fact that the guy, I don't know, something's not adding up for me. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway,
what is the thing means? Effing.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is a daytime show.
Well, it says F with some spaces in there.
You try to trick us into saying it on it. It's a racial slur, Lewis. It's a nasty racial slur.
We'll tell you off air, but it's not.
Which is why.
I see. Sorry, I didn't see what that meant.
Okay, you don't have it in America.
It's a racial slur, and that's why Rishi Sunak's very upset. But the question is it genuine? Is it an attack on Reform? We don't know. I mean, And here's another question for you. Will it affect Reform's vote? I say possibly not. Even though the comments are awful, there's now this doubt around this guy's background. But also, if you look at Trump, for example, 2016, the locker room talk, so-called, of the Billy Bush weekend, when you listen to the comments he'd said on the leaked audio, and everyone said, well, Trump can't carry on. But Steve Bannon was known for saying at the time there was 100% metaphysical certitude that he'd still win, which is a very Bannon phrase. Because the American people were concerned about their jobs, immigration, things like this. And they didn't really care about this. Maybe a few suburban mums, but then the working men didn't care.
That's a good point. And I think, from my point of view, is that people are so ticked off with the Tory party, they'd be happy to have the Tories insulted in any way. I didn't even know what that word meant, so I wasn't doing it. I apologise if I... whatever.
Prince Harry said it a few times.
But it's like people are so mad at the Tories, you know...
Yeah. We'll let the nation finish that sentence in their minds, and we'll do the I now. And will the BBC give Labour an easy time or continue their record of flawless impartiality, Lewis?
Oh, yes. This is BBC to love bomb Labour if it wins election amid fears over licence fee review. And this is in iNews, and this is basically saying, hey, the Tories are really, Labour is really worried about the BBC is really worried about losing the money that it gets, right? So they're going to be really nice to Labour because they've been really, they don't want to go, they don't want to
That sounds ideal. The state broadcast should be really nice to the government.
Yeah.
Can't see any problems with that.
And the truth is, they're all two peas in a pod. The BBC, which, is the British, whatever it is, they're the propaganda network. They are Team World.
Team World, there it is. Take a
up,
drink, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, they're completely up the kazoo. Can I say the kazoo?
No one knows.
I don't know what it means.
We don't know what it means.
No, I don't know
Wazoo. But also, I love when you said 2 peas in a pod. It was the most New York thing. That's the best thing. That's the only good thing you've said tonight, but it was good.
Is that not an English phrase?
It is, but you made it so American, is what I like. Adam, BBC, will they love bomb Labour?
Oh, so this is
absolutely.
a lie. That's what
I'm asking Adam Lewis, and he's still speaking. That can't be right.
No, I think they absolutely will. I think we all know that they've basically suffered a lot under the Tory rule. I think the Labour's going to be a lot more a lot nicer to the BBC. I think though I think it doesn't, even though if Labour I think it looks like we could safe to say Labour will get in. They're not going to have a free ride or an easy ride. I think the licence fee is still going to get reviewed. That's something that still needs to be done. Everyone knows it's archaic in it's current model, and it needs to be reformed.
It doesn't need to be reformed. It needs to be completely cut out. We need to stop paying for the BBC.
Well, that already happens, though. But you don't need to pay for the BBC. Just don't watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you don't need to pay for it.
How many people were there? 1,000 people put in prison for this? 1,000 women, mostly?
I personally like elements of the BBC. I don't like it as a whole, but I think there's elements of it that are
so
good.
Then you pay for it, but I do
pay for it. But who's forcing you to pay for it?
You pay for Lewis's.
They are forcing me, because if I want to watch...
You get pensioners discount. You can get it in black and white for £40 a year or something. We'll get you a black and white TV.
Didn't you say that I look young? Who said I looked young?
I never said that.
OK, we dealt with that one. And by the way, Andrew Marr is saying it will only be a short-lived thing before usual hostilities are resumed. So let's see.
I agree
between the government and whoever, and the BBC and whatever the current government is. But let's do the I again. And apparently another Reform candidate has said a thing, Adam.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one. A Reform candidate says women shouldn't behave like men. And at first I thought, what on earth does that mean? Like women shouldn't pee standing up at the urinals? Like, they don't. But then it says promiscuity isn't attractive. Now, people are coming out and saying this is misogynistic. I think, who thinks promiscuity is attractive at all? In men and in women? Point made, Lewis. It's not attractive. I think nobody likes to seem desperate.
I think it could.
By the way, Lewis raised his hand off camera, which is great for radio listeners. It's great, and for TV listeners, it's great. No one saw it or heard it. Even I saw it. Me and Adam, the only people that witnessed that. It was like if something happens in the woods. If Lewis puts his hand up in the woods, does anyone care?
Promiscuity is really attractive when it's directed at
you just come across very desperate, Lewis. I don't think
so. It is attractive, and the truth is, this is just one more piece. This is in iNews. One more thing about let's try to crush
Reform. Yeah, it did feel a bit like that to me. I watched the interview. It was a young lady interviewing this guy, James Gunn. It seemed like a perfectly nice, slightly posh, eccentric guy with a hat. Yeah. A sort of colourful hat. Not colourful, it was black, but colourful in eccentricity. And he seemed like a nice enough guy to me. And when asked about Andrew Tate, he said he's not my role model. He didn't know much about him. So that was just, doesn't know who Tate is. Yeah. He just said that as a Christian, he doesn't think promiscuity is very good. Yeah. That's the most sensible, normal thing.
It's very Christian
scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. If that's a scandal, we're completely lost as a country. What is bad about that?
Well, what it is, I think what's bad about it is because it steps on self-identity and the right of people to do whatever they want to do. It's saying, I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah, people don't like being told
They
no,
don't
do
want to be told what to do.
No. Yes, it steps on the liberal orthodoxy.
Especially now, you got women who've been promiscuous.
Which a second ago you said you liked.
I could like it.
Changed his mind. That was minutes ago.
We're
in a different world. We live in a very different world to 1.5 minutes ago. Let's do the Express then with a story about the lack of support for veterans. Serious one, this one is.
Mental health horror. This is in the Express. Mental health horror for veterans is half of those suffering are not being supported. So this is one of those stories. Yeah, they're not supporting the veterans. But the truth is that this is a group of people from... I'm not even going to mention what it is. It's people who are selling drugs. They're pot people. This is the pot...
I don't agree with that.
I read the story and I don't even know what you're talking about.
No, I'm going to tell you what it is.
You said you're not going to mention anything of the story, which is quite unconventional.
I am going to mention it. It's a group who are selling medicinal cannabis. Okay, they want people to take pot to make whatever you call it in this.
Sounds like the Lib Dems.
Yeah, to take it. Very similar.
Just to push back in you there, though, Louis, just to push back in you there. I think in the article, even it says 60% of these people express a preference to avoid prescription medication. So it doesn't have to be drugs. It can just be therapy or talking to people down the pub, like getting people actually together. It doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be, but this is what they're promoting. They're promoting drug use, which is what all these newspapers do. It's about drug use. But wait 1 second.
Yes.
Is that this is they asked 1,000 people who'd left the service. How long ago did they leave the service? A long time ago? Yesterday? People who leave their jobs tend not to be doing well. They're not people who spent their entire career.
We should be supporting our veterans, though. We should be putting them at the highest.
No, well, that's what they're trying to do. This is
If it was 1,000 former marketers, I probably wouldn't care. But if it's veterans, they fought for the country.
What about 1,000 people who've been fired from GBNews? They're not going to have a
again, not as important as veterans, as much as that pains me to say.
Look at Lewis's face. He was weighing that one up. Yeah. Lewis Schaefer versus veterans. Who's more important?
It is more important.
Well, I hope the veterans get the help they need. That's all I'm going to say. That is it for part 2. But coming up, J.K. Rowling versus David Tennant. Why you shouldn't give toddlers phones and why you probably shouldn't smoke with Ed Davey. See you soon.
Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. Tomorrow, bit of a three-way split with our weather. Bright and breezy across Scotland with a few showers, mostly fine and sunny across East Anglia and the southeast. But in between, this weather system is creeping towards us. Not a particularly potent one, but it will bring cloud and some outbreaks of rain. That's starting to move across the Republic of Ireland at the moment and spreading towards Wales and southern parts of Northern Ireland by dawn. Still a few showers across the far north and west of Scotland. Still quite breezy here as well, but elsewhere the wind's pretty light with some clearer skies. Temperatures will dip down to single figures, but actually turning quite cloudy here, but that will keep the cloudy temperatures up across Wales and northwest England through the early hours. The cloud will increase a little bit across southwest England too, so a grey start here for some, maybe the odd shower, but for much of East Anglia and the southeast, fine and sunny, and for a good part of Scotland and Northern Ireland, certainly the north of Northern Ireland, a fine start to Saturday, some decent spells of sunshine. Still quite breezy across the far north and still plenty of showers packing in across Caithness, Sutherland, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles. They'll keep going for much of the day, but a good chunk of Scotland will be dry. This cloud and rain, though, likely to stick around. Not much rain, I suspect, getting to the east of the Pennines, but still predominantly cloudy here. Dull and damp on some of those coasts across northwest England, north and west Wales throughout. But brighter skies further south and with a bit of sunshine. 25 degrees is possible across the southeast. Scotland and Northern Ireland in the high teens, but with a bit of sunshine. It shouldn't feel too bad because the winds will be lighter tomorrow compared to today. Mostly fairly light winds on Sunday as well. Some rain will head back towards Shetland. Could start quite grey in the south with 1 or 2 showers here. Quite a bit of cloud on Sunday, but I'm still optimistic that many places will see some sunny spells. And we've lost the heat from earlier in the week. Temperatures at or a touch below average.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get cracking with the Telegraph. And the Lib Dems want to legalise cannabis but ban tobacco. So if you're ever smoking a doobie with Ed Davey, just be aware it might be pretty strong, Adam.
Yeah, this is a story from the Telegraph. Lib Dems vow to legalise cannabis but ban tobacco, which sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it, in an upside-down world. When I first read this, I remembered I was almost transported back to when I was a teenager, thinking that that'd be really cool to legalise cannabis. But it's kind of a bit embarrassing now, because at 17 I would have loved this idea, but I'm 32 now. I want to hear things about how you're going to help me out with my mortgage. I think this is the Lib Dems trying to appeal to a younger audience, younger voters, and it's almost like, oh, and if you vote for us, you can stay up late and eat ice cream for breakfast, and it's like, it's kind of embarrassing that these are their rules, and they're still polling as badly as they are.
I think you're making a mistake. You're trying to figure out what the Lib Dems are thinking, and I think that's, I've been here for 25 years. I don't know what they're thinking. No one knows what they're thinking. They don't know what they're thinking.
I think they're thinking to legalise cannabis.
Yeah, they may be thinking nothing. There's always that chance.
Yeah.
To be very fair, Ed Davey said this, I think, to Christopher Hope on GB News. It was quite interesting. His point was he's very against smoking, because I'm going to defend the Lib Dems here, because his parents died of cancer, even though it wasn't from smoking. He's seen people go through things like that. But he doesn't want cannabis to be banned because of its medicinal qualities, but he does want the really strong stuff, the skunk, to be banned. So he's kind of threading this position. It's not my position. I'm against all drug legalisation, but I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you legalise something like pot or any kind of drugs, it just takes the fun out of it. And
there's that, yeah, there's that.
And then it just turns ugly like alcohol. Though those people have told me how good alcohol is, and I drink alcohol sometimes.
So you don't just need to rely on their word almost.
I don't think it's that. That doesn't do anything. It does something for me, but it's not that. I don't sit there and go, oh, I got to have a drink. But the truth is, it's from the Lib Dems. I mean, I met a lot of Lib Dems where I live down there in Southwark. They're lovely people, but I don't know. You know what it is? Somebody, you got to, right now.
I used to live in a Lib Dem stronghold back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's also smoking weed, it is bad for you. Breathing in carbon, anything you're breathing in carbon monoxide. Let's not pretend it's fine.
Yes.
And I think
it's just not as bad.
It's not as bad as, but it's such a low bar for cigarettes, isn't it? And I think if you legalise this, it's got to open the floodgates. People are going to be smoking whilst driving, and it's got to. Yeah. We know alcohol's bad already, so
it's hard to imagine how London could smell any more of cannabis than it already does, but yeah.
We don't do moderation.
I'm against all drug usage, so I just want to say that for the record. Don't do it, kids. But let's move on and do the Telegraph. And should politicians be named and shamed for having, some would say, bonkers views on the trans issue, Lewis?
Yes, well, that's what's happening right now. This is in the Telegraph, which is weird that this kind of thing is in here. Election candidates who hold militant, quote-unquote, militant views on the trans rights, named and shamed by women's group. And that women's group is called What is a Woman?, which is similar to that What is a Woman in America. And what they're doing is they're collecting a list of all 600 and something candidates who are, or not 600, more than that, because it's many candidates per congressional district or MP district, whatever it's called.
Biden moment.
Who say anything vaguely not following the we love trans is good, self-identify, everything's cool about the trans issue, including saying, if you ask what is a woman, you could be on a list saying you're transphobic. Did you know this? If you go something like that, so what is a woman?
Were you
This
on
is a
that
lot,
debate?
Yeah, this is a lot like last night's debate.
Yeah, it
Many
really
people
is.
are looking at Lewis going, has he got long left?
No.
Can he carry on?
No.
His own side are questioning, can Lewis Schaefer carry on?
Put a few of the more back.
I forget what
Is it even fair? Is it even fair to have him on the TV?
I thought I made a view, but it's this.
Did you make a view?
I had a view. I had a view.
You've eaten too many carbs today, Lewis. I've seen you eating carbs.
I know. I've been eating so
and it's
much
made you
sugar.
crash.
Oh my God! Look at how fat I've
Yeah, I am just. You're crashing, Lewis. You're rebounding. Adam, can you make any sense of this story?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I think it's important, isn't it, to sort of like have these grassroots campaigns. I think certain women are sort of standing up for their identity. I think there's
which side are they standing up for? That?
Well, they're standing on the sides of they'd be cold TERFs, wouldn't they? That's what these women are, because they're standing up for the women. I've never personally seen the problem with saying, like, what's the difference between saying there's someone who's a woman and someone who's a trans woman. They're two different things. I think that's the ideology. You should be able to say there's two different things. I think where people get lost is by saying you can't say trans woman, that needs to be woman, and that's where you lose a lot of people. I think most people are quite polite and say you're happy to call someone a trans woman, but let's not pretend they're the same thing.
If you were running for office,
which I would never do,
you'd be on a list. You'd be on a list.
Yeah. I mean, and it's true. There's a Lib Dem candidate here saying transgender men are men and transgender women are women, and they've so lost the plot because, interestingly, Starmer and Blair, and therefore Starmer, because he copies Blair, have said now, no, we're being normal again. A woman's a woman, a man's a man. But the memo hasn't reached much of the left.
But in defence of the Lib Dem candidate, when they did say that, they were actually high at the time. So they were smoking a lot of
legalised
weed.
cannabis, and that will be a problem. So let's do the Telegraph. And J.K. Rowling has weighed into the David Tennant versus Kemi Badenoch row, Adam.
Yeah, so this is the story by the Telegraph. J.K. Rowling criticises David Tennant for allegedly calling feminists little whining F-words.
What is that word?
What is that? Lewis, do you want to ask me what that word means?
I didn't know what it meant.
It's a bad word, Lewis.
I wasn't trying to bring it out in any way.
This is interesting. J.K. Rowling's obviously sort of launched into the defence and sort of attacking David Tennant. David Tennant obviously being in the news recently for attacking Kemi Badenoch and asking her, wishing that she wouldn't exist anymore, which is obviously very horrible. I think it's quite saddening to sort of see what's happening to David Tennant, because I used to be a very big fan of him when he was just an actor rather than just, weird annoying.
Activist.
Weird activist. Like,
did you Google him too?
No, I knew who David. I watched Doctor Who.
That was a joke.
Was it? Okay, you have to signpost us. Tell us when you're doing the joke.
Get a sign that says joke.
But I think David Tennant has kind of proven the last few weeks that the Doctor Who might have two hearts, but only has half a brain.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you write that and think about that a lot ahead of time?
A lot ahead of time, yeah.
And it was worth it. It was good. People will love that.
Thank you.
Then can I say I didn't understand it because I don't know. I'm not
it was funny.
To quote Alan Partridge, a few more of those a week and you're away. But the thing that really bothers me about this story is that many things do. Everything that Tennant said, and he allegedly said this extra thing behind scenes, so he's apparently saying even worse. Oh, actually, it was probably not even quite as bad as the public stuff. But he says in his speech, he doesn't understand why. I'm a little depressed by the fact that acknowledging that everyone has the right to be who they want to be and live how they want to live, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, should merit any kind of special award. But the key is that they are hurting other people, because obviously there's a clash of rights. If women are concerned about people going into their prisons and changing rooms and sports, obviously you are hurting other people. So just to pretend that part of the debate is not there, it's just so disingenuous.
Right, and that's a great point, is that if you say, I'm a woman, and people believe you're a woman, and you go into a bathroom and people don't think you're a woman, there's going to be a problem there. So somebody's rights are taken away. I mean, it's this whole thing. I think people are going to look back on this time as like they were fighting over this, and meanwhile there are people who are trying to bring down. Like I was walking down the street today, and I was noticing how many arms you could see on women.
How many arms?
The skin on a woman's arm.
Wow,
what?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. You mean we're not the Taliban?
No, we're not the Taliban. We allow women to work, and the agreement.
Okay, I don't know where you stand on that, Lewis, but that was fun.
The agreement we have amongst ourselves, even though I might say I'm anti-trans, let's say, which I'm not, but let's just say, is still so much closer than our enemies who want to destroy us and stop us from drinking.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yes, we should be coming together over our similarities.
We should be coming together rather than fighting over this trans issue. Let people call each other.
I got it in the end. All right, let's do the Times. And toddlers given phones to calm them down, have anger issues later in life. Is this what happened to you, Lewis?
It could be, yeah. I don't think I was paid attention to as a child. My mother was not the great. She was a good mother in some ways, but very bad, obviously bad.
Let's do an hour on that.
Yeah, well, we could, because that's why I am the way I am. That's why I'm such an... I wear a high-vis jacket around the house because I want the attention.
I believe that. I believe that.
That is your first joke that we've got.
But I've made that before, if anybody's listening.
Oh, really?
But anyway,
Oh,
Google me at louisschafer.co.uk. At Louis Schaefer.
I think they see what you're like.
Anyway, the point is that they did it. That there's been a study done. It was done I don't know where it was done, in Budapest and the university. You know, like ridiculously bad places. Quebec, and one in Quebec, that said if mothers who give phones to their kids to calm them down in public places have worse behaved children a year later.
Right.
Okay. And they is it the phone that they've given because it's called digital emotional regulation? Is it the phone that did this?
Giving it a fancy
or were
name.
they just bad parents?
Yeah.
That's digital emotional regulation. So, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of what the kids end up doing if you stick them too much in front of the TV.
That's the noise they make. Go on, Adam. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is interesting, isn't it? I don't think this is anything new though, because when I was a kid in the 90s, it was the same sort of message, but it was instead of the phone, it was like, don't stick your kid in front of the TV. And I think this is sort of common sense, is it? Most people know you should sort of like treat your kids with respect and actually don't just give them something to shut them up. Don't put a screen in front of their faces. And of course, it's no surprise if you are going to just put a screen in front of your kid every time they make noise, they're going to end up having the emotional intelligence of an iPhone when they grow up.
Yes, but maybe it's just that it's not that the TV is doing it. It's that the parents are bad parents, and bad parents put their kids in front of the TV sometimes.
If they're young parents as well, they've probably been, raised on phones and TVs themselves.
I, for one, blame the parents. Let's quickly do The Guardian and the science of dad dancing, Adam.
Yeah, so this is from The Guardian, shaking it off, the science of dad dancing and why it's good for you. And this is a story prompted by a viral video of Prince William, which prompted experts to laud the benefits of men communicating their hormones, which is a sentence which sounds very horrible, from lifting moods to boosting trust. So this is a very nice, fluffy piece, basically dancing and any form of exercise might make you feel good. They said they did some studies. I want to know if there's a scientific study done on older men dancing differently from younger counterparts. Of course, that's all. I don't know why are the scientists spending their time doing this? Like, let's fix cancer.
Because it's an excuse to go
to the club. Do you dance, Lewis? You're in one of these categories.
I dad dance. When you become a dad, you
old man, young brain. Where do you sit on this?
Old guys look horrible dancing. You know what it is? If Michael Jackson were alive today, he'd be a horrible dancer.
I mean, he's very old, yeah. I mean,
but you look great dancing, Lewis, because you're very young at heart.
Yeah.
And because of your all-meat diet.
No,
it's the all-meat diet.
I'm able to dance.
Stay away from the dance floor because I smell quite bad.
Can't speak, but great dancer. That is it for part 3. So sorry. We're coming up in the final section. A bizarre new internet trend involving flights, the songs that sum up the election campaign, and should you weigh your child before letting them ride a donkey? The big questions answered very soon.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
History lecturers at the University of Liverpool have been advised to problematise whiteness and heterosexuality in their seminars. They are saying that you should be guilty if you're white and heterosexual. Not using the long words they use, but that's kind of what they're saying.
Yeah, but do you know what? History in this country is concerned with more and has been lived by more white people and more heterosexuals, right? And that's the history. I'll tell you something else, Don. This is Russell Group University material here. This is Liverpool. It's a really good university. Mm-hmm. The thing that really got me going apart from this, and I thought it was an AI generation of words input into a system to come up with from something. It's ridiculous. The main issue I have is the verb problematise. I've never heard of that before. Yeah. So they should be prioritising grammar. Let's get first principles back in there firstly.
It's just promoting anti-racism.
It's not, Amy.
It is. Wait. It's just bringing the marginalised voices into the discussion. So
no, what they're saying is look at British history through the optic of
all perspectives. So let's look at it from the perspective of a queer person growing up. Let's look at it from the perspective of somebody from...
But that's not the majority.
When I actually looked at the evidence, it's all about unpacking bias. And you have to admit there has been a white bias in history.
No, there hasn't, because the facts...
From a white perspective...
Amy, the facts are, in history, most people in this country are white and heterosexual.
Of course, but then there's still...
So that's the history.
...voices that deserve to be brought into the discussion as much as the dominant...
Look,
like, that's all decolonising the curriculum is hearing all sides of the argument.
I think...
Surely we at GB News Love, we celebrate that. That's what we do.
We do, but we're not telling anybody it's bad to be white or it's bad to be...
Exactly.
That is not what...
Amy, it is. It is.
The People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. And before we get into the very hectic last bit, I just want to say thank you very much to Richard Bellis, our producer. It's his last day. He's been a soldier on Headliners for 2.5 years. And there we go. Round of applause for Richard. He's a joy to work with, unlike certain people we could talk about. He's a hard worker and he's a smart cookie. So thank you to Richard, and we wish him the best of luck in whatever he does in the future. But the news moves on, so we have to move on and get on with it. The news never sleeps, so let's do The Guardian. And which songs sum up the election campaign? For me, it has to be the classic ballad, "You ignored your base for 14 years and now you're toast," Lewis.
Oh, we skipped a thing. Did we skip a thing?
No, that's 15. 15. The one
sorry.
about Heaven knows.
I'm sorry, that wasn't very professional. Oh, yes. Do you know that what's his name? Johnny Marr wrote a lot of the Smiths songs. Did you know
Well, he wrote the guitar parts and Morrissey did the lyrics.
Oh, OK. Well, that means he wrote it. I think that's the music. I think he gets credit for that. Anyway, I'm a big expert on Oasis now. OK, heaven knows I'm miserable.
The Smiths. Yeah, all right. I saw what you did. Well, heaven knows I'm miserable now.
The UK radio listeners nominate songs to sum up the election campaign. And this is a radio station on, I guess it's, I don't know whether it's all over or something, or in London. And I'm not going to say what it is because it's giving them an ad. And that's what the newspaper is at this level. It's just ads that are written by these survey. They do a survey and then they send it in and they say this is the thing and this is a news thing. And this is what the Guardian decides to put. But this radio station has a lot of older viewers, so they ask people what...
Do you watch it?
Do I listen
to it? You said viewers, so you tricked me. But
I'm sorry.
So I said what?
I didn't trick you. It was a mistake.
Listen.
No, I've never heard it. I like the idea of it, and the songs that they mention are good.
Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend was How I Feel Now, but that was one that could be used for the Sound of Silence for the campaign. What do you think, Adam? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to name the radio station just to annoy Lewis. It's called Boom Radio.
Why do you do that?
Just to annoy you. But yeah, I mean, it includes the name Boom Radio. It's specifically tailored for baby boomers.
You never heard of this station?
No, but you can sort of. I mean, I don't listen.
I have. It's where the good BBC presenters go when they get rid of them for no reason.
Right, it's Boom Radio. Well,
they get rid of them for a reason. They're old and they.
Yeah, that's a bad reason.
I'm
tonight I'm rethinking, but generally I don't think being old's a hindrance, except for Biden and maybe Schaefer.
No, it is a hindrance because you got a young person who's 32 years old. He's not what
young-ish, but yeah, young people don't tend not to listen to the radio anyway.
He's 34.
Two.
I said 32. Why'd you say ish?
No, because I just said 32 is not young. But yeah, no, I think...
He's just saying move on, just so you know.
Let's move on.
It's his last day, he doesn't even care, but he's just watched that bickering and gone, literally
let's move on.
And I've broken the fourth wall.
To be honest. Anyway.
Is that ridiculous? All right.
So how old am I really?
Let's move.
You can decide your own songs that you would think the election campaign should go with, but let's do the Daily Star. And a new trend has taken the internet by storm, and it's actually just men on flights staring straight ahead, Adam.
Yes, absolutely. Now, so I'm going to change the title of this because it's got a bit of a naughty word in there, but it's in-flight something dogging takes the internet.
Put it on the screen anyway after we just said we can't talk.
Okay,
we all agreed we can't say it, but they put it on the screen.
Yeah, so in-flight raw dogging takes the internet by storm, but it's probably not what you think it is. So, but yeah, this is basically people just young people sitting on planes, not listening to podcasts, no screen time, just staring forward, and they're calling this raw dogging on flight.
No, they're doing it deliberately. deliberately.
But this just used to be sitting with your thoughts. I don't know why.
This was called Life till about 1997.
Yeah, I don't know why we're having to put a fancy thing in there. Sometimes it's quite good not to be constantly plugged in and just let your brain decompress, I think.
But there's different levels. Like the video I saw, there was different levels. So there's the first level where you don't go on your phone.
Yes.
Then there's one where you don't even listen to music. Oh, yeah, you just look at the map of what the flight is doing, the provided map.
Yeah.
But there's a new version where you don't even look at the map.
Yeah.
You just look into white space. And men, because men can make a competition out of anything. They're like, well, watch me. I'm just going to look at blankness and I'm going to think nothing for 17 hours.
Yeah.
So it's a new trend, Lewis.
Well, do you remember when I first moved here, because I've been here for 24-something years, and
you remember the Wright brothers, don't you?
Lewis remembers those planes you had to like run the first bit yourself with your feet.
The Flintstone planes.
I came over here
on one of those.
Anyway, we'll discuss it another time. But the point is that the you confused me. And now I've turned it
easily got Biden moments.
Well, what was the question?
Are you doing a Biden tribute, like a long joke tonight?
Yeah.
Maybe
I forgot what I was talking about. You interrupted me.
So we're talking about this story with the...
It's fine. Well,
just say
you'll come back to you later, Lewis, after
I
the
do
show.
want to say this. But this is what people used to do. They used to go to a pub, and they just used to sit there with a pint of beer.
Right.
And just look at the beer bubbles. If they even looked at that.
Well, some people had friends, Lewis, as well.
No, they were all alone. They didn't have even a newspaper to look at.
Okay.
Fine.
We're going to move on to this fairly boring story in the Metro. Could Lego be the key to space exploration, Lewis?
Yeah, well, this is how Lego-style moon bricks could help build space bases in the future. And this comes out of the ESA, which is the European Space Agency, which says they're thinking about the moon and making bricks on the moon. How are they going to make bricks on the moon?
Lego.
They're going to make bricks that look like Lego, possibly, but they're going to make it out of the space dust. But there's a problem, because they don't have space dust on this planet that we're on, so they
can't practice.
They can't practice. And number two, no one gives a damn about European space.
Do you want to do this, Adam, or donkeys?
Yeah. Okay. I'd love to. Oh yeah, let's do the donkey.
Okay, well, let's do the Express then with the key question: is it okay to weigh a child before he rides a donkey, Adam?
Yes, 100%. Short story, absolutely. It's for the donkey's health. I read when I first read the story, I thought it was hilarious. People were getting upset, like parents of like maybe overweight children or larger children, saying this isn't fair. I think if you are too heavy for the donkey, you can't go on there. The same thing with roller coasters and height. I think the businessman of this of the donkeys missed an opportunity to upsell the larger children to horses. I think if you weigh too much, pay an extra 20 quid, get on a horse.
Yeah.
And that's
There's good news and there's bad news.
Good news
You're too
and bad
fat for a
news.
donkey, but have you ever tried horses? Lewis, in about 5 seconds, anything on donkeys?
Yeah, something on donkeys. I've been to Skegness, and I think they've got walruses in Skegness, or a goat. They've got a museum right on the beach in Skegness. It's a great place.
You rode a goat.
Okay, that wasn't 5 seconds, and it didn't make sense. But the show is pretty much over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. It's been a good one. Let's start with the Daily Mail. It's Boris. Britain can still swerve Starmageddon. The Telegraph has Biden is given 1 week to stand down. The Times, Badenoch, voters must see through Farage Act. The Mirror, I could hear Jay slipping on rocks. The Express, Rishi, my hurt and anger at daughters hearing racist slur. And finally, the Daily Star, man baby beats up doddery old bloke live on TV, which is what happened tonight. And those are your front pages. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks to Adam and Lewis. Headlines is back at 11 p.m. tomorrow. If you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. Tomorrow, bit of a three-way split with our weather. Bright and breezy across Scotland with a few showers, mostly fine and sunny across East Anglia and the southeast. But in between, this weather system is creeping towards us. Not a particularly potent one, but it will bring cloud and some outbreaks of rain. That's starting to move across the Republic of Ireland at the moment and spreading towards Wales and southern parts of Northern Ireland by dawn. Still a few showers across the far north and west of Scotland. Still quite breezy here as well, but elsewhere the wind's pretty light with some clearer skies temperatures will dip down to single figures, but actually turning quite cloudy here, but that will keep the cloudy temperatures up across Wales and northwest England through the early hours. The cloud will increase a little bit across southwest England too, so a grey start here for some, maybe the odd shower, but for much of East Anglia and the southeast, fine and sunny, and for a good part of Scotland and Northern Ireland, certainly the north of Northern Ireland, a fine start to Saturday, some decent spells of sunshine. Still quite breezy across the far north, and still plenty of showers packing in across Caithness, Sutherland, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles. They'll keep going for much of the day, but a good chunk of Scotland will be dry. This cloud and rain, though, likely to stick around. Not much rain, I suspect, getting to the east of the Pennines, but still predominantly cloudy here. Dull and damp on some of those coasts across northwest England, north and west Wales throughout. But brighter skies further south and with a bit of sunshine. 25 degrees is possible across the southeast. Scotland and Northern Ireland in the high teens, but with a bit of sunshine. It shouldn't feel too bad because the winds will be lighter tomorrow compared to today. Mostly fairly light winds on Sunday as well. Some rain will head back towards Shetland. Could start quite grey in the south with 1 or 2 showers here. Quite a bit of cloud on Sunday, but I'm still optimistic that many places will see some sunny spells. And we've lost the heat from earlier in the week. Temperatures at or a touch below average.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party. Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on Friday the 28th of June and this is a GB News election special with me, Tom Harwood. Welcome to Vote 2024. The people decide. With just 6 days until polling day, don't we have a show for you tonight? The Reform racism row rumbles on. Rishi Sunak has taken the gloves off, but Nigel Farage and co claim that the man Channel 4 caught using racial slurs is an actor who had connections to the channel. Labour are planning a big rally in London tomorrow with rumours of celebrities in attendance. But are they, like Neil Kinnock in 1992, celebrating a touch too soon? And Keir Starmer has been explaining himself on Bangladeshi TV today after he said illegal migrants from Bangladesh should be sent back to, well, Bangladesh. And I'll be chatting to George Eustice, who's stepping down as an MP after 14 years. As a former cabinet minister, he had a front row seat for the last 14 years of Conservative-led government. Also tonight, I'll be joined in my studio by my panel. Former Tory MP Neil Parish, Labour activist Aisha Allah Khan and Lib Dem Federal Board member Callum Robertson. Plus, former Brexit Party MEP Belinda de Lucy will be here.
Good evening. It's 1 minute past 7. I'm Cameron Walker here in the GB newsroom. US President Joe Biden says he intends to win the election in his first public event since his struggle during the first televised debate last night. He's just been speaking at a rally in North Carolina where Democrats are hoping to win the state back from Republicans this November. He claimed America itself is at stake and accused former US President Donald Trump of repeatedly lying and said he has the morals of an alley cat. After his own shaky performance during the debate last night, President Biden directly addressed the limits of his old age.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Back in the UK, the Prime Minister says the leader of Reform UK has questions to answer after a video emerged of a campaigner making racist comments. Andrew Parker was seen making a series of offensive remarks about Rishi Sunak. He's now apologised, but insists he was goaded into making them. Rishi Sunak says it's part of a broader pattern of behaviour. A warning, the following clip contains some offensive language.
When my two daughters have to see and hear Reform people who campaign for Nigel Farage calling me an effing, it hurts and it makes me angry, and I think he has some questions to answer. When you see Reform candidates and campaigners seemingly using racist and misogynistic language and opinions, seemingly without challenge, I think it tells you something about the culture within the Reform Party. Our politics and country is better than that. It's my duty to call out this corrosive and divisive behaviour.
Well, Nigel Farage said earlier that the comments have no place in the party and describes the secretly recorded video as a setup. But responding to Mr Farage's claims, a Channel 4 spokesperson said that they strongly stand by what they called rigorous and duly impartial journalism, which they say speaks for itself. And Reform UK has increased their lead in the election polls despite a difficult week for the party with the allegations. A poll conducted by Whitestone Insights has found that Labour has maintained top spots, but both Reform and Conservatives are fighting for second place. The electoral calculus said if the above result were to be repeated at next week's election, it would result in a Labour majority of 244 seats, with the Conservatives on 57, the Lib Dems on 72 and Reform on 31. Now, lawyers for two people who became sick after eating sandwiches contaminated with E. coli have started legal action against Tesco and Asda. The claims related to an 11-year-old girl who ate a chicken salad sandwich. She's now been on dialysis for 3 weeks after falling ill. Separate legal action is also being taken against Tesco on behalf of a man who says he regularly purchased sandwiches for his lunch. At least 122 people have been admitted to hospital since the start of the outbreak, which has also led to the recall of wraps and salads sold at several major retailers. And in royal news, Princess Anne has returned home after several days in hospital with minor injuries and concussion. The 73-year-old is believed to have been struck by a horse while walking on her Gatcombe Park estate in Gloucestershire on Sunday evening. Her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, has thanked the team at Southmead Hospital in Bristol for their care, expertise and kindness. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines. I'm Cameron Walker. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, it's 6 minutes past 7 and my name's Tom Harwood. This is Vote 2024. Now today, Rishi Sunak has said he was hurt and angry after Channel 4 caught a Reform UK canvasser using a racial slur to describe him. Let's remind ourselves.
When my two daughters have to see and hear Reform people who campaign for Nigel Farage calling me an effing it hurts and it makes me angry, and I think he has some questions to answer.
Strong words. Nigel Farage, however, has claimed that the whole thing is a setup. Let's take a listen.
I saw all the footage last night. I thought no one speaks like that. It was just stream after stream of invective. No one speaks like that. He denied point blank that he was an actor. It turns out he is an actor. I found his website. He's a well-spoken actor. He was rough speaking. He wasn't being himself from day one. I have to tell you, this whole thing is a complete and total setup.
So, the big question tonight. Is Nigel Farage right? Was this a paid-for stitch-up by Channel 4? Or is the Reform UK leader simply clutching at straws after his party was exposed fair and square? Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me is my panel in the studio. Neil Parish, the former Conservative MP, Aisha Ali Khan, a Labour campaigner, and Callum Robertson of the Liberal Democrats. Neil, we'll start with you. This is a bit of a strange story to be discussing. It's the first time I can remember, in terms of scandals, that the party is just sort of saying it's all made up.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we need to do is sort of get to the bottom of this, don't we? I mean, if these comments were made and they were made by a Reform activist, then they are very bad, because, I mean, the last thing you want to do is stir up any racial problems whatsoever, and certainly by doing it when you're canvassing is very wrong. So I think this will be interesting as it unravels. I'm not going to make judgment at the moment on exactly who's right and who's wrong on this one, but what we don't want is racist comments from anybody, basically. And so, you know, and I have, you know, when you go out canvassing, and I've done a lot in my time, you do meet people on the doorstep that have very strong views. Now, what you don't want to do is encourage them down particular routes, and that's why I think we've all got to be quite careful when we're on the doorstep.
Certainly. Right, we'll return to this conversation in just a moment's time, but I'm delighted to say that joining us now is Belinda de Lucy, the former Brexit Party MEP and Reform UK's Education and Families spokesperson. Belinda, thank you for making the time for us this evening. It does seem a little bit strange that Nigel Farage and indeed the Reform Party as a whole is presenting this as a staged setup from Channel 4. The channel, of course, is denying this.
Well, look, the volunteer leafleter, what he said was utterly unacceptable. And I was shocked to hear such outrageous, awful words being said. I mean, I'm glad that progress has been made, that the nation is rightfully shocked that this kind of rhetoric is around, and Reform UK acted very, very swiftly and made it very clear that anyone that holds any racist beliefs, you know, are not welcome in the party. And unfortunately, with as you say, all parties, when it comes to volunteers, especially, you know, when there's not time to vet the helpers, you can come across extreme fringes, and you just have to deal with them swiftly, which is exactly what we have done. Now, as has been said on the panel, it does look like there are other elements that need to be discussed and unraveled. I do think there is a huge smear campaign, a hit campaign against Reform UK at the moment. It is the revolt against the establishment. and all the parties that want to keep the status quo do not like that an anti-establishment party, if you like, are on the rise in the polls. And after the sort of hit job that was done on Nigel Farage over his intellectually defensible comments regarding the EU and NATO approaching Russia's borders, and the horrific way it was completely unjustifiably spun in the press that he was somehow a Putin apologist, I knew then that over the next few days there is going to be a massive smear campaign. Now, saying that Rishi said that Nigel has questions to be answered. Well, I'm not sure about that, because, you know, you could easily then say, well, Rishi has to answer personally for the Tory MP who was caught watching porn in his parliament, or Keir is personally responsible for all the problems he's had in his party and having to let candidates go, or even the Green Party. It impacts all parties. But we are very clear, we are not welcoming anyone with those views. You know, the Brexit Party was the most diverse party in the EU Parliament, Tom. You know, we had second, third, fourth generation immigrants, black, brown, all religions, who have more patriotism and love of this country in their little finger than the whole of Westminster together. You know, it's nothing about colour, it's about national unity and coming together to be proud of your country and to defend British values. And that's what Reform UK stands for.
And yet, what we're seeing today is a curious argument from the Reform Party, pointing to this individual activist's past as an actor, saying that he had worked with Channel 4 in the past, almost implying in a statement released on X, formerly Twitter, that this was a stitch-up by Channel 4. I noticed that you're saying that the comments from this individual were absolutely reprehensible, and of course the Reform Party has repudiated them. But it's interesting that the Reform Party press office is pushing this line of a setup.
Well, I think it's quite reasonable to be asking questions. I think there has been an unusual attack on Reform UK. I think there have been very much double standards. For example, the Labour candidate in Clacton, you know, has been accused of racist comments against white people, and there hasn't been the fiery anger and press headlines and Prime Minister reacting to that. You know, we're a new party, but as Nigel has said recently, we're getting over our target. We're taking more flack. This was a volunteer leafleter, and we've made it very clear. People like that are not welcome in our party. And I think that it's right to explore all the kind of attacks that we're getting when they go straight to the Prime Minister over this, when it hasn't happened with other parties, and other parties have had the same kind of incidents.
Other parties have had scandals themselves. I can't count the number of scandals that have engulfed the Labour Party and the Conservative Party in the last 4 or 5 years. Is this not simply a part of politics? If your party wants to be up there with the big parties, and you certainly are polling around the same level as the Conservative Party is right now, doesn't this sort of scrutiny simply come with the territory? Is the Reform Party not sort of asking for special treatment here?
Not really. I think we have had unfair treatment, actually, and we're just responding to that. And I think it's quite right for us to investigate how this has come about. If the person who has said such horrific things, you know, happens to have a past in acting, has allegedly worked for Channel 4. I think it's really important. I think there needs to be transparency across all parties and across all attacks. But as I said, we are a small party. We're leading the revolt against status quo parties, and they do not like it. I don't see any other party that has had a volunteer leafleter, you know, what they've said goes straight to the PM in the front page of the Times. And I can understand why Rishi is hurt. I mean, he said awful things. And I'm glad he's not welcome. I think we've made it very clear we deal with people like that very quickly. Isn't that a sign, a reflection on how serious we are about being a party for everyone?
OK, well, Belinda de Lucy, former Brexit Party MEP, of course, and Reform UK's education and family spokesperson. Really appreciate your time on the programme this evening. Thanks for joining us. Well, my goodness, let's digest some of that with my panel. Still joining me, Neil Parish, of course, Aisha Ali Khan and Callum Robertson. Aisha, what did you make of what Belinda had to say?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that this is not the first time we've had comments by Reform supporters, by Reform candidates that have come to light. And I just think that this would have been the perfect opportunity for Nigel Farage to show a bit of leadership and say, this was absolutely wrong, we take full responsibility, we're going to look into this. Instead, what he has done is pass the blame on to somebody else, i.e. Channel 4 News, and basically hoping that kick it into the long grass, don't have to deal with it, not my responsibility. And I think that type of leadership, it's just not there. And if we are going to, you know, view him as a potential opposition leader, depending on what happens next Thursday, that's not the sort of leader I would want you know, anybody to be looking up to.
And yet Belinda was saying that this activist was suspended as soon as this story broke. What more could the party have really done in that case?
I think what I find baffling is that, you know, Channel 4 News have been covering elections for so many years. They've gone up and down the country. They've been interviewing. They've been, you know, they know this is going to be subject to scrutiny and people are going to be questioning and looking into it. And so if you are going to use an actor who's had previous links with Channel 4 in the past, surely that would have come out at some point. So it just beggars belief that, first of all, Channel 4 News would subject themselves to that level of scrutiny and ridicule afterwards if it was to come out.
Yeah, it's almost like they're staking the entire reputation of the channel on this. It doesn't quite stack up.
It just doesn't stack up.
Neil, before I bring you in, we're going to speak to Callan Robertson, who is a federal board member of the Liberal Democrats. Does Belinda de Lucy have a point when she says, look, this is just one activist. It's an activist. This isn't a candidate. This isn't a party representative. How much weight should we be putting on this?
I think the answer to that question lies in the video itself. He said Nigel occasionally calls him. He texts with Nigel Farage. This isn't some random activist. This is one of Nigel's friends. What sort of person hangs out with friends like that? But actually, let's go on to a slightly larger point. I stood in Clacton in 2019. I recognise him as an ex-UKIP canvasser. He is not an actor. He is a far-right campaigner being courted by a far-right party who are pursuing far-right policies.
So you've met this man before?
Oh, yeah, I've met him before. He's a long-standing local yob and thug, to be honest.
Goodness me, that does bring a different perspective to this, does it not?
I mean, what I was also going to say about Channel 4 is I did a programme called Banged Up, where I got locked up in a prison for a week with some interesting characters. But all I wanted to say, really, is that I found Channel 4 to be very professional. And I really don't think they would go to these sort of lengths to set this up, because surely it would unravel anyway. And so, therefore, I think what's being is a lot of smoke and things being thrown out by the Reform Party in order to try and sort of cloud what's going on. I mean, as has been said, it's quite basically you don't want that language on the doorstep. The Prime Minister, he may not be a perfect guy, but he certainly shouldn't be have that type of abuse. And I think that is where the problem is. And I think Nigel Farage is a great campaigner. He is very good. I mean, this is like the American. Don't forget, he's done quite a lot with Trump. And this reminds me very much of a Trump-type situation where if it's not right, then it's fake news. And it's certainly clouded.
And yet, to put the Reform Party's case, what they would be saying is this is simply asking questions. It's a fact that this person is listed on an actor's website, talks about doing different voices, talks about doing secret camera work as well. I mean, at the very least, it's a coincidence.
It may be a coincidence, but I also think he was an activist for the Reform Party, and so therefore I think the Reform Party has to answer. They have to apologise properly, and they don't really want to put out a smokescreen. And I shall be very interesting to see over the next day or two how this unravels, because I suspect there's a lot more to unravel. And I think you have been talking about some very interesting stuff. Perhaps you'd like to elaborate a little more.
I'll leave what I've said aside for a second, but I'm a teacher by trade, and one of the things this reminds me of is the slightly naughty child who refuses to take responsibility for their actions. Because that's what Nigel Farage is. He's basically a child, an adult in a child's body, No, definitely other way around. Child and adult's body, who basically has walked around for 20-odd years saying thuggish things with a posh accent, being allowed to get away with them because he sounds nice and middle class and one of the people you meet down the pub. But he's just a thug in a suit. And he's a thug in a suit who's being held accountable because his party is now riding high in the polls.
Good to see. Well, we're going to pause this for a moment because Channel 4 have released a statement. A spokesperson for the channel says, "We strongly stand by our rigorous and duly impartial journalism, which speaks for itself. We met Mr Parker for the first time at the Reform UK Party headquarters, where he was a Reform Party canvasser. We did not pay the Reform canvasser or anyone else in this report. Mr Parker was not known to Channel 4 News and was filmed covertly via the undercover operation." Well, goodness me, after all of that, thank you to my panel and to Belinda DeLucy, of course. Coming up next, Keir Starmer was on Bangladeshi television today explaining himself after comments he made about sending illegal migrants from Bangladesh back to Bangladesh. But was he right to do so? We'll be getting into that right after the break.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes, she could have said storm. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere. Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 7:24. My name's Tom Harwood and welcome back to Vote 2024 on GB News. Now, Sir Keir Starmer appeared on Bangladeshi TV today following a backlash after he used Bangladesh as an example of a safe country to which unsuccessful asylum seekers could be returned. Let's have a look at Starmer's original comments. And remember, he's talking about people with no legal right to remain in the UK.
on the first few days in government, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put the staff back in the returns unit. I'll make sure that we've got planes going off, not to Rwanda, because that's
Where are they gonna go?
That's an expensive gimmick. They will go back to the countries where people come from. That's what used to happen.
Where are they? I mean, it's so hard to do.
Well, at the moment, people coming from countries like Bangladesh are not being removed.
Well, here he is today explaining himself on Bangladeshi TV.
I'm very concerned about any upset I may have caused. That certainly wasn't my intention. I didn't mean to offend anyone or upset anyone, and I'm genuinely concerned that I have done so, not least because the relationship between Labour and the Bangladeshi community is very, very strong. Now, those relationships are strong, and therefore it is a concern to me that words that I used have caused upset, and I do want to address that and to be absolutely clear that that was not my intention.
Keir Starmer there expressing his concern over upset. But did he actually say anything wrong? Should a politician feel the need to explain themselves for